Hi, I'm Sarah Floor, and welcome to yet another video. Honkai Star Rail's 3.1 is out now and has been out for a while, so I want to give my overall thoughts on the story. While this is scripted, it's not very structured, so it's going to be all over the place. Apologies in advance. Let's get started. What I want to talk about most is just how excellent the character writing is this time around. What a night and day difference from 3.0. Hell, even from 2.1. 2.1 was all about adventuring, but this time both of the banner characters have their backstories and motivations explored this time around. And what an absolute treat it has been. From learning about why Mighty was so hesitant on taking Nikador's trial, his time in exile as he slowly lost his comrades one after another, before finally claiming the life of his father, in hearing the guiding words of a mother he never got to know. From Triby's backstory of being a holy maiden, basically a mouthpiece who was only around because she was useful to the people lording over her, to breaking out of that role to accept Yanis' prophecy and destiny. Let's dive into Triby's backstory a little more. From Triby's backstory, we learned that her mother was also a holy maiden of Yanisopolis, like herself, a priestess for the titan Yanis. However, after Yanis succumbed to the Black Tide and left their core flame behind, the role of holy maiden and status lost its meaning, and became more of a status symbol for the people in power to use to control people. Triby's mother, Mortis, became harder to control and was murdered. A plot that was kept hidden from Tribios until she stole Yanis' core flame and realized the truth. Not only that, but she caught a glimpse of the infamous prophecy and began the flame chase journey as its messenger. Triby's backstory not only explains her role in the journey, but also the commitment to its cause. It shows us how even though death and loss awaited her, she was brave enough to take the first step and become the first demigod. It's a backstory that shows her courage, her resourcefulness, her foresight in how she sensed our presence, and determination in the face of adversity. Mighty's backstory is pretty straightforward, as we see glimpses of his journey to reclaim Castral Kremnos from his father, the current king. As mentioned before, we witness his allies and comrades fall one by one, before Mighty alone faces the king and kills him. However, Mighty does not ascend the throne. His hesitation, along with Nikador's insanity and the Black Tide, becomes his excuses as to why he refuses to become the rightful heir of Kremnos. It wasn't until an encounter with his mentor, Finon's failure of the trial, and said mentor's attempt at becoming a demigod himself, that finally pushed Mighty to action and take his rightful place as Kremnos' last king. Despite everything his mentor did to preserve the Kremnoan way of life, Mighty still chose a better future for his people, where they no longer glorify death and war. Mighty's hesitation of accepting his fate is something you wouldn't expect for him. You'd expect Mighty to be the kind of person to challenge fate head-on, but he tries his hardest to avoid it. It makes his eventual acceptance of Nikador's core flame and his decision to end his dynasty all the more interesting. He accepted his fate in regards to the flame chase journey, but he outright refused to contribute to the bloody legacy of Kremnos. Prior to becoming a demigod and taking the trial, Mighty told Finon a story of how the giants came to live among the Kremnoans before seeking refuge in Okema. It was a great, albeit blunt, foreshadowing of his intentions, and how Mighty planned to throw a wrench in fate. Both Triby and Mighty have different approaches to their fates, a subtle yet fascinating dichotomy. Triby seems almost exhausted, yet determined to see the prophecy through, and understands that she will be the only one left out of her 1,000 cells. She worried for Trian and encouraged her not to use the Sentry Gate, But when the time came and Trian used up all of her soul, Triby did not grieve her loss with tears, but rather with a promise to meet again. How many tomorrows did she promise to her other selves? It's impossible to know. I also like how both characters' mothers play key roles in their journeys. With Mortis, Triby's mother, it was her death that made Triby realize that Yanisopolis elites cared little for the Black Tide or saving the world. And with Gorgo, Mighty's mother, she went against the old king Euripon and was seemingly the first to question the traditions of Kremnos in the first place. All in all, both characters were written excellently, and their stories have enough similarities and differences that tie them together. This is Honkai Star Rail at its best, when the narrative is character first. As for the rest of 3.1, it's okay. The story still falls into the same tired trappings as always. Telling but not showing, long swaths of cutscenes where you can spend up to an hour without touching your phone, controller, or keyboard. Recycled stock animations with no evidence of improvements, and of course, no option to skip dialogue. Now I will give the developers some credit. I do like how they made a lot of exposition optional. That's great. I also like how the puzzles aren't as obtrusive this time around and are shorter overall. Finally, the story now has stakes. Trian's death and the Flame Reaver added much-needed tangible tensions to the story. Sure, we have the subplot with the Council Elders, but they aren't a tangible threat yet. Threats we can't see aren't as thrilling as threats we can see. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about the 3.1 story. They are setting up for some interesting revelations and story moments in 3.2, so I expect more character-driven excellence in the next patch. Honkai Star Rail's story has received a ton of criticism as of late, but I think most can agree that the character writing is consistently superb. Thanks for watching. I'm on my way to 300 subscribers, so if you liked the video, consider subscribing. Later.